Welcome to Talk Travel with Heather Tate, North Mississippi's podcast for savvy travelers. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is a weekly podcast that airs every Monday on the Shark 102.3 FM radio station based in Ripley, Mississippi, and is then released as a podcast. Travel advisor and travel enthusiast Heather Tate of Whimsical Destinations gives listeners expert travel tips curated through the years of personal and professional experience. By clicking subscribe, you'll have a new travel tip to add to your collection delivered to your podcast library every Monday. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is brought to you by Sun Bear Studio. Sun Bear Studio is a boutique recording studio in the heart of Ripley, Mississippi. When you record with us at Sun Bear Studio, we can mix, master, register, and publish your music, your podcast, or your family story. Email us when you're ready at sunbear@jc.media.
This program was recorded at Sun Bear Studio in Ripley, Mississippi.
Good morning, Northeast Mississippi travelers. This is Heather with Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and I'm so excited to share my adventures and tried and true tips with you. Whether you are also a seasoned traveler, a hopeful traveler, or currently an armchair traveler, meaning you're going to follow along with us from home for now. This is our 134th episode of Talk Travel with Heather Tate. And this week, it is going to be all about spring break. Spring break is almost here. And I don't know about you, but I have always loved this time of year. It's warming up. You see the flowers starting to push their way through, and it makes me want to go on an adventure. Right? Like I can feel it in the air. Same way I feel in the fall, I feel it in the spring. And even though it's cutting it a little too close for most international travel right now, unless you have your passports in hand and you are not on a strict budget, because last minute spring break international with flights, it's going to get a little pricey. But unless you're ready for that, there's still enough time to plan an adventure closer to home. So if you have a few days, even one day, maybe you still have the whole week and you just could not decide where you wanted to go, or you waited to get the passports that they're not going to come in time. You've got them ordered, but you need to go somewhere, or you want to go somewhere now. Where can you go? What are some ideas? And I'm going to give you some, and you already have lots of ideas in past episodes, so be sure to check those out, especially spring break day trips from a past episode. I'll reshare those. Join our Facebook group, Heather and Logan Tate, Whimsical Destinations, and I'll share other spring break ideas to give you some inspiration. It's also not too early to start planning for next spring break. So if you're wanting to do a big adventure for spring break, somewhere especially if you're talking international, go ahead and get your passports ordered now so you'll have them. You can plan whether it's a all-inclusive resort stay, we can get that booked now, or maybe a cruise in the Caribbean. You can go ahead and have that booked for next spring break and start making payments. Or maybe you just want to go to the beach and you want that certain condo that it books up a year in advance. Disney, Universal, a lot of these are already sold out. The rooms at other resorts are already sold out, so it would be too late to go there. But not for next year, if you wanted to go ahead and plan. But what about this year? What can you still do? So I'm going to give you some overall ideas, and then I'm going to give you some specifics for some of those. I'm also going to tell you where my family is heading to spring break this year and why. Okay. So here's some ideas. A drive-through animal park. I love a safari park. We have some locally here in Northeast Mississippi. Blue Springs Safari Park being one of them, and you can drive through with your own vehicle. Also, the Tupelo Buffalo Park. There are other ones throughout our area that are also in nearby in Tennessee and Alabama that you could go to if your child loves animals or if you love animals. So not only that, of course, there's so many zoos nearby. Memphis, Birmingham, Atlanta, Nashville, Chattanooga. So you can go to one that you have not been to before. That's the fun way. Oh, if you're going to Gulf Shores, there is a great little zoo there. Also, sanctuaries, animal sanctuaries, such as there's the National Tiger Sanctuary, which is outside of Branson, Missouri. So if you have a child who is an animal lover, then maybe look at going to an animal sanctuary. There's also a big cat sanctuary in Arkansas. And that's where my family went last year for a spring break trip outside of Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Botanical Gardens. If you tuned in just 2 weeks weeks ago, you know that I've already talked about the Memphis Botanical Gardens and why you should go there this spring to see the Trolls exhibit. It is a rotating exhibit. It's here through May 21st, and it will be a fantastic reason to go to the Botanical Gardens nearby in Memphis. Now, there's other botanical gardens. Once you've gone there, if you want to go to others, we often get an annual membership, and then you'll find that those can be good for all other botanical gardens as long as they're a certain distance away. And there's some criteria there. But there's one in Hot Springs that is fantastic called Garvin Gardens. You have Huntsville Botanical Gardens, which has events throughout the year. Birmingham Botanical Gardens, Atlanta Botanical Gardens. If you're going anywhere, any state is going to have its own botanical gardens or something comparable that you could explore. So I definitely recommend those. Those are fantastic for spring break because the flowers are blooming. Speaking of flowers, there's a tulip festival in Georgia, and it just looks incredible. I love Amsterdam and the Netherlands, and so I really want to go see the tulips there. Not going to happen this year, but going to a tulip festival here in the South, much more likely to happen. So I'll post some information about that. So maybe your family is not into floral and flowers. So you want to do something different? Go to a sporting event. So many different options. I mean, we are in spring training season. Baseball is upon us. So finding a local sporting event to attend, or maybe going to a minor league game. Go ahead and look at the schedules to see if there's any team playing nearby that your kids would be interested in or that you're interested in. And maybe it's a sport that you're not even normally following, but you want to try something different, go somewhere different. And with the weather being great, if it's something outside, that's a reason enough to go. The Space Center in Huntsville or the one in the Stennis Center, those are also great options. And along with the Space Center, maybe a science center. We have so many good ones. You have the McWane Center in Birmingham, Discovery Center of America in Union City. My family loved that one, and we have got to go back this year. Like, it was absolutely a wonderful experience in Union City, Tennessee. You can do it in a day trip. We did. It's about a 3-hour drive one way. Totally worth it, though. And they have so many different events going on. It's indoor and outdoor, so there's always something to experience where you can see they have train model, not just model, but like real trains that your kids can go in outside. There's a gigantic slide indoors that even adults can slide down, and it goes fast. I flew down that slide. And then there's lots of interactive exhibits that they can do. If they're a dinosaur fan, if they love books, if they love secret rooms, their vehicles that they want to climb in, a maze, a tower, koi pond, so many different things to see at the Science Center there. Hiking, so many trails. We know that. We have the Natchez Trace in our backyard. So if you haven't explored a section of the Natchez Trace or gone to one of our state parks, Tishomingo and Tom Bigme to go hiking, this is a great time for waterfalls. I know a lot of times people think of waterfalls in the summer, but this is a time, especially after it's rained a lot, when there's going to be waterfalls are going to be at their peak. So there's a loop in Tennessee, in North Carolina. We've been to several of them. And North Alabama has some that's been on my list. DeSoto Falls. I still have not been to DeSoto Falls. I'm telling you, like every year I want to go to a new waterfall. Last year I got to go to Niagara Falls for the very first time. This year I'm going to make it to DeSoto Falls. And I will be happy to share pictures on our Facebook group. And I'm going to put more ideas in our Facebook group, Heather and Logan Tate Whimsical Destinations. Speaking of waterfalls, and that's going to transition from waterfalls and caves, Ruby Falls is a way that if you want to experience a cave and see a waterfall, go to Ruby Falls in Chattanooga. You get to experience both that way. Now, I promised you I would tell you about my family's current spring break plans. We are going to Charleston, South Carolina. Now, Charleston is very special to my husband and myself because that is where we went not only on our honeymoon, we went for our 2nd anniversary, and when London was 3.5, almost 4, we went for our very last time. And now London's almost 13. So it's been 10 years since we've been to Charleston. I can't believe it's been that long. But that was our last time we went to Charleston, and we have not been back with Christian. So it will be Christian's first time to Charleston. I love going places for spring break that have history. You know, everyone thinks spring break and they think the beach. But if you're going to the 30A, and you want to get in the water, if you're going to Destin, if you're going to, Panama City, if you're going to Pensacola, the water's cool. It's going to be too cold for getting the Gulf then. So that's why I like to go somewhere with history. And Charleston, to me, has so many things to experience. Like there's forts, there's aquariums, there's the downtown itself is just beautiful. Rainbow Row with all the architecture there is just stunning. You can take a horse-drawn carriage. You can go see the beautiful gardens and the beautiful homes and all the history that is there. And I think it's going to be wonderful for the boys. It also helps that there is going to be there's a U.S. carrier and there's a museum that they can see, and they can climb on some of the exhibits and get to see if they love anything that's going to be transportation related. So if you've got big ships, they're going to love it. USS Alabama. So I know I'm going from Charleston and I'm giving you another suggestion, but you're thinking of a really good spring break trip and your kids love a piece of history. That's a great idea for a spring break trip as well. Okay, so Charleston is special to me personally, and I love there's the haunted tours that you can take, and the food is amazing. So I cannot wait to get to share that with Christian. London doesn't even remember the last time we went, and there's so much to do with nature, and you could take boat rides, and you're there on the water, but then there's other things to do too besides going swimming this time of year. So I'm excited to share that with them, and it's drivable. So whether it's Charleston or Savannah or St. Augustine was another favorite of ours for spring break. Those make some different options. Williamsburg in Virginia makes another really good spring break trip if you're wanting history, because you've got Jamestown and Yorktown. You've got a triangle of history right there. We've also gone to Arkansas for a couple of years for spring break, stayed in tree houses and explored both Hot Springs and Eureka Springs. So there's so many fun options for spring break that you don't have to fly to, that you can take a drive and take a long weekend trip if you can't take the whole trip, or other options I've given you where you can make a long day trip. Whatever you're planning on doing, remember, life is short. Make the plans, turn those adventures that you're wanting to do on your bucket list, turn that into a reality. Make the memories with your family. You won't regret it. Have a great week.
This show is made possible by JC Media, LLC in Ripley, Mississippi. JC Media owns the Shark 102.3 Classic Rock FM radio station where the show is hosted, and Sun Bear Recording Studio where the interviews are recorded. We need your feedback and support. If you listen to the podcast on a player like iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Amazon Music, please subscribe to the show and leave us a review. We also have an email in which you can share your feedback. That email is theshark1023@gmail.com. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite app or stream episodes online at shark1023.com/podcasts. Today's episode was produced by Melinda Marsalis. It was edited by Rick Williams and engineered by Chris Marsalis. The podcast technician is Joyce Grady.